here with Dave Brown, OSU's landscape designer, and we're going to take a look at a new garden that just opened last week on OSU's campus, right during graduation actually. This is the Human Science East Courtyard. And Dave, there was a lot that went into this before you started selecting the plants, and I just wanted to talk to you about that. What are some of the things that you had to think about in this design?
Well, the first thing we think about when we're designing is where on campus we're designing and how it's going to relate to the surrounding buildings and to the rest of the campus as well. We're standing on Legacy Walk, which was a project that we did a couple of years ago that becomes a very strong access point across the campus, and it terminates on the Human Science building, and it also terminates on what's going to be the new Spears building as well. So that being a focal point to one of our major accesses on campus, or a bookend, we felt it was very important to do this project right. It has a very high design hierarchy for us. So first thing we were looking at is the axis of Legacy Walk. And we had some challenges to overcome as we were doing it. When we did Legacy Walk, this oak tree right here, we feel very strongly about protecting the trees here on campus and do what we can. And so we had to work with that oak, but it kind of pushed the axis of the sidewalk here to the north a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And when you say the axis, you're talking about the U shape of the building. It's a little bit to the right rather than dead on in the center.
Correct. If you drew a straight line down the sidewalk all the way down and saw it die into the building, it's not going to land on the center point. It's going to land off here to the north into like the north 1/3 of this side of the building, and it becomes a little bit unbalanced that way. So that was one of the things that we had to consider. Another thing we had to consider is running straight into the building is a very old steam tunnel that services the building with utilities. A lot of the wiring, conduit, and things like that run in, and we had to take care of that. So we noticed as we were looking at the axis and we were looking at the steam tunnel that if we lay a sidewalk or the ribbon stone like you see here on Legacy Walk, which also not only serves as accent, but it serves for easier use for wheelchairs and strollers and things like that. But if we copied that form down and used that for our steam tunnel lid, then we could use the access point of the middle of the sidewalk and more or less lined up with Legacy Walk. So it was a little bit fortunate for us that it worked out that way. And that's how the sidewalk was placed, and that kind of started dictating the spaces in the form of the garden.
So the garden over there started with this tree on the opposite side of the street actually.
Yeah, it's a good way to say it, yeah.
So now, when you moved across the street to the actual garden design, what did you have to think about after you had your access defined?
So once we had the access defined, I started thinking about a space by how I want the space to be used, what is in the best interest of the client being the teachers and administrators and students of human sciences here. And so we wanted to create a really nice, usable outdoor space. And we also, if you don't mind me jumping back, we also looked at the other end where Spears building is going to have a stage in their landscape as well.
And that's at the other end of this axis?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we figured it would help the two spaces relate. So we're not only trying to relate to Legacy Walk, but we're trying to relate to the Spears Courtyard, and then use a stage. And our stage, we wanted it to be useful in outdoor presentations, classrooms, displaying student art, maybe the fashion show, some of these forums that come about. Maybe this gives them that space that they want where they can bring people from the outside or the inside out, because that's really one of the main goals that we try as landscape designers, landscape architects, to pull people out into our spaces.
Right.
So we looked at usability there, and so that's where you see the stage coming in right there.
And there's something unique about that stage. The top of it is actually a certain pattern that you chose.
In the College of Human Sciences, in their textile, in their fabrics, they developed an OSU tartan, which is now on the official Scottish registry. So a tartan is like a plaid pattern that you see like on kilts.
Dave, I think it's really unique that you actually tied in the tartan that was designed here by the college into the garden design. So about the visual weight of this, the stage is to the left a little bit. So tell me about what you had to do to kind of balance that in the garden.
Well, the way we balanced it is one of the requests of the client, the customer here, is they wanted a walking garden. And so when we started looking at the heaviness of the stage and of the sidewalk kind of being shifted to one side, we thought that we could help balance that out and make it feel more complete by putting the walking garden on this side of the courtyard, giving them a unique place to display their donor benches and to be able to come out and relax and enjoy a garden right outside of the building.
Yeah, so that's your more thoroughfare where you got a lot of heavy traffic, and this is a space for students to come out and enjoy and study. So what went into some of the plant selection?
Plant selection we were thinking about in a few terms. We wanted to make sure that the plants we chose could take the environment we were putting them in, and with a few we are taking a couple liberties and maybe some risks, but we'll let you know how they do. But we also wanted to make sure that we had some good seasonal interest too, because the time that this would be most used when the kids come back and start going back to school is in the fall and in the winter, and so we need it to look good at that time of year as well as spring and summer. The colors of the plants that we chose was based on, if you're coming down Legacy Walk and looking at it, what we really wanted is we wanted the colors to pop out and to have kind of their own individuality and not just have this visual mass of green mass from a distance with what happens sometimes with plants. So we use contrasting colors, and one of my favorite contrasts is purple and yellow.
Right.
My high school mascot.
Complementary colors.
Purple and gold, yeah. And there's quite a few selections of plants out there where you can find that purple and the chartreuse or the yellows. And so what we're looking at here is Crimson Fire Loropetalum. It's going to get up just a little bit bigger. I think that's going to get up to maybe 4 foot, so it'll kind of start to spread towards each other and give it a little bit more massing, and also help this space to feel a little bit more protected and secluded, more garden-esque, I guess. And that also, if you'll look behind the benches, we have them there. In front of those, we have Carl Forster feather reed grass.
And so that kind of gives a back to the bench. A lot of times people like to feel secure and feel like they're sitting against the wall. So that creates that effect.
Correct. We have a very obvious thoroughfare bringing people in. It's meant to be a main entrance. It's meant to handle quite a bit of foot traffic, and then just right here we have a garden where we want people to be comfortable, and so that's how we handled that, is to put something that'll soften that, kind of give people that feeling of having that seclusion and protection.
And you've recycled the benches that were already existing here, so you've been able to repurpose some things. And then can you speak a little bit about the trees that you've selected?
These are butterfly magnolias. They are a hybrid magnolia. We're expecting about in the 20-foot height and width range. And so it creates this overhang or this alley coming down the sidewalk. And again, we want that feeling of garden and protection and comfort and mitigating the sun off of the people who want to come out here and use that.
And speaking of sun, you use some columnar trees that are on the south side of the north building, the north side of that U, and that will help kind of protect them and shade some of those offices as well.
Correct. These are Arnold tulip poplars. We expect that they're going to get up maybe about the 4th floor, maybe just below that crest, but they will stay columnar, help us mitigate. These offices over here in classrooms, they get a lot of sun, so we're trying to cool that down for them.
Dave, thank you so much for joining us and sharing the intention and the reasons behind your design here. And I would encourage all of the visitors next time they're on campus, come check out the Human Science East Courtyard.
hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. You can also find even more videos on our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.